You speak, Matt, because I don't think I can hear you.
Hello, hello.
Oh, you can. I can. I don't know what was happening there. I couldn't hear the intro. What? Well, this is a fun intro. This is a different intro to what we've usually done. I thought my sound wasn't working, but it is. I don't want to touch it in case it isn't. But welcome to you, the listener. Bit of a different opening for us there. But yeah, welcome to the podcast and the series that is designed to help people like me and you, active, engaged, good managers, get out of that rut of only trying to aim for the top 10, top 100,000, should I say, and change the way and get into that elite, that top 10,000. We do that using all the data that we've got at our hands, but also, as I say every week, using our secret weapon. That is my co host, Matt, a man who has played for 8 seasons, finished in the top 10,000 in 6 of those, and is ranked as the world number 6 of all time. Not very happy this week, are you, Matt? Same as me.
I mean, has anyone had a good game week? What was it? Game week 5, wasn't it? Like, has anyone had?
Week 5.
Did anyone get the luck on this game week? I think it's one of those ones you just you have to write it off, really. But it was pretty funny, actually. We'll go into detail, but like it's one that you just gotta laugh
Feel
off.
funny.
But yeah, but like 10,000. That's our aspiration. I don't know whether actually top 100K is the reset for this season. Maybe for me.
Don't say that already. No, 33 game weeks to go. Plenty of time. I'm still, which we'll come on to, I'm still in the top million. And I think I know I've said a few times, like it took me until game week 20, I think, last season to get into the top million. And I ended up about 43K. So I've still got faith.
Yeah, I forget actually. You're doing really good. Actually, like I'm kind of wallowing in like self pity, but you're kind of smashing it.
Doesn't feel
Actually,
it.
yeah.
I was 70K about 2 weeks ago, and now I'm 900 and something. So it doesn't feel it, but I'm still ahead of where I was. So I can't complain. And I've got some, this we'll go into this game week because we have to, but it wasn't the best. But it's for me, it's these sort of game weeks that I'm like, right, let's have some fun in the next game week, and you'll see as we come onto my game week reveal my thoughts and some of the transfers and those crazy ones that I do 4 or 5 times every season. One of them might be coming in this week for the first time for the season until you talk me out of it, of course. But yeah, we may as well load up how we did. Look away now. So, do you want to feel free to start? You beat me this week.
Yeah, that's the first, isn't it? It's the first time this season, so I got a whopping 32 points for a 9.2 million game week rank out of the 9.8 million players. So yeah, happy days. But yeah, I've got Turner, Chilwell, Udogi, Diaz, and Bomo, Fernandez, Sterling, Saka, Rashford, Jackson, and Haaland. So I think the only players that have returned there are Saka with his assist and then Haaland with his single goal. So I mean, kind of some of the lowlights. Chilwell, he was particularly annoying, right? It's kind of classic that you bring in these sort of players for their kind of nice run of fixtures, and when they get the clean sheet, he doesn't start, right? So if you had like a Gusto or who else have they got? Colwell, like for example, you kind of laughing, but yeah, Chilwell, he kind of surprisingly got dropped for a tactical reason, so that was pretty kind of frustrating. I mean, Ruben Diaz going for the best defender in the best defense for a really nice run of fixtures. Yeah, it's been quite a painful experience, right? All those two, kind of like 2 pointers have been pretty tough to take, really. Yeah, I think Man City are always finding a way to concede again. I think against West Ham they had decent overall defensive stats, but yeah, they found a way to concede. Got Jackson and Sterling. They're kind of like two attacking players from Chelsea. I believe both hit the post, which is kind of like, I don't know, optimistic. The optimism, he says, hey, that's promising, but yeah, kind of like when you get scoring kind of really low, it's not nice when they're doing that. Udogi I brought in, which I think actually, like despite me being a 3 million kind of ranked player at the moment, so I can't really talk with any kind of like conviction on these things. But I think bringing Udogi in was my first real mistake of the season. So I went in. I got rid of Gabriel, who I think got a 6-pointer. Took him out for Udogi, who got 2 points. I'm doing that as a mistake, really, because I should have rolled. Right, of course, it's easy to say in hindsight. Gabriel got a few extra points, but it's not game changing. What I looked at was clean sheet odds. I think Arsenal were around about 30% for a clean sheet, and I thought Everton were really going to score. But yeah, were really, really solid. Spurs were 45% odds, I think, to get a clean sheet against who are they playing? They're playing Sheffield United.
Sheffield United.
And yeah, like obviously they conceded and like they conceded against 0.5 xg, so a little bit unlucky there. But really, ignoring all that, I should have kind of rolled just to give me flexibility moving forward. So yeah, bit of a mistake there, but yeah, not a massive clanger. And then I think Haaland is an interesting one because everyone owns him, majority captain him. A few brave people did go Son against Sheffield United. Wow, they've got so lucky, right? That decision, which was a bit sketchy, was a bit risky, a bit sketchy. Wow, they got lucky. So Haaland got a goal, but yeah, you're getting away with murder there. I think he had expected goal involvement about 3, and like that excludes
2 sitters.
Yeah, and that excludes that expected goal kind of like a stat there. It excludes him choosing not to tap in Bernardo's goal. Right, and you think that striker going for like goal records would tap that in. So if he touched that, it would have been like expected goal involvement of like 4. He comes away with 1, so he did some major points kind of dodging. So like like Song captain is like fair play for being brave, but yeah, you got away with it. So yeah, not a great week, but like it's kind of funny. You just got to laugh at it, like hitting the posts and dodging captain points and whatnot. But I beat you, so I'll take that.
You did the 2. Yeah, take what you can. It's not a competition between me and you. You're helping me be better. But the two differences really is Doggy got you 2 points. My main man, Matty Cash, my main man for the season. I was watching Sky Sports Gillette Soccer Saturday, and I can't think who was watching that game, but basically said Cash could have had a hat trick in the last 2 minutes. It was like, here he is, he's getting back forward. Then they concede, then he gets booked, so he ends up on 1 point. And then Martinelli, I mean, I couldn't catch a break with the guy. He's not scored all season. I've kept him for another game week. I was thinking, do I sell him for probably Maddison would have been my move. Obviously, watched the Tottenham game behind the couch, worried Maddison or Son could absolutely fire. Came out of that game, Maddison on 1 point, and thought, I have absolutely dodged a bullet here. I've kept a transfer, so I've rolled it. So that's the positive for me out this week. I've rolled the transfer, so I've got 2 next week. Obviously, and then I've got, I'm already 4 points up, and I've got Martinelli to go. He then scores against Everton, and I'm like, get in. What a decision this is. This has saved my week. Then VAR gets involved. It's called offside. Very, very dodgy call. Obviously, the Everton player played for the ball. So usually that wouldn't be an offside, but there you go. So that got disallowed, and then 2 minutes later he's injured himself celebrating the goal, and he's subbed off. So he gets 1 point. So yeah, that was a real kick in the teeth. But other than that, yeah, pretty much the same team as you. Only Saka and Haaland delivering 300 points total. Out of the 9.8 million players, I came 9.4 million this game week, so even worse than you. But yeah, still in the top million, 951k overall. So another red arrow, but onwards and upwards. Let's get this screen off, Matt. We don't need to look at this screen anymore. Let's get rid of it. We can talk about what's happened in the game week without seeing dreadful. I think looking back, I pride myself on I don't remember having any game week in the last 4 seasons of less than 38 points. So that was my worst game week in 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's how much it hurts.
You've done well. Done well. I swear I've had 20 pointers. So like, yeah, you're doing all right there. You
still hit the 3. Still hit the 3 at the beginning. There it is. Nearly didn't when Burnley scored their second yesterday and Turner went down to 1 point, but VAR saved me that time. But yeah, we've touched on this already. The high-owned Spurs players, Udogi, Son, Madison all blanked, and now they go into playing Arsenal, then playing Liverpool. So you've already kind of mentioned this, Matt. You kind of said bringing in the Spurs defender there was a mistake. Do you feel people that maybe went for Son and Madison, is that also a mistake?
So yeah, like for me, I knew I was very very confident Gabriel was going to start, right, and Everton is a prime fixture. I just thought Everton are better going forward at home versus Spurs at home against Sheffield United. But yes, I should have rolled. But like, yeah, I kind of wanted a kind of really good defender for this game week, this previous game week, in game week 8. So a bit of a mistake, but kind of whatever. The attackers, they kind of needed to perform, right? Didn't they? They kind of needed to perform in this one game week, right? Because the next two are pretty damn tough, and people will do like classic pundit talk, saying, "Oh, North London derby and Liverpool are leaky." But the fact is, they're both kind of very good, very good teams. So I think we discussed last week. It's probably a bit premature to bring them in and expect they're going to move mountains, right? And they didn't. So it was a bit uncomfortable not going in without a Spurs kind of like player. But I think particularly in Son's case, he'd only performed well in one game the whole season, and he massively overperformed. Right, he got a hat trick, but against one expected goal involvement, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm feeling bitter. I found that quite funny, to be honest. Like, so, no, you got to laugh. You can't make these things up, right? But yeah, obviously, if you've gone for a Spurs midfield, you're stuck with them. They could nick some kind of points. They all great fixture in game week 8, so you just got to kind of stick out with them, really. But yeah, how close were you to bring in Madison or Son for Martinelli?
Well, you'll know because I think I texted you on Friday about about bringing in Madison. Yeah, close. But then it was that next 2 game weeks piece. I just feel going into this game week with 2 transfers is good. You'll see why when I come on to my thoughts, but Son for me. So well, you'll see from the top. Obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan. Son scores against Liverpool all the time.
Yeah.
His pace just gets behind us. He's on the left side. It's where people attack us because, for as much as I love Trent going forward, he's not as good as Robertson going back. So if people attack our left, which is where Son will be coming from, they tend to get some joy, just like Nunes did against Wolves. I appreciate Trent wasn't on the pitch that game, but attacking that side of our defence, people get joy. So if I own Son, I'd secretly be okay with it. Madison, again, he's a good player, but yeah, I'd rather have somebody else. I'd rather have somebody else than Son, just for the fixtures.
Agreed.
Close. I was very close. I was close to getting in Madison, but I decided I'll hold firm, and it looked a genius move when he got 1 point. I still worked out fine. Don't get me wrong.
No, you got unlucky there with the injury to Martinelli, right? I think it was a smart move.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of people, and this is the same as me and you, United and Chelsea assets. We've had this conversation before in game week 2 about Man United assets and them not performing, but the stats back them up. And we'll come on to this. I think a little bit of our conversation is going to be really around the midfield positions and the striker positions, because most people with these United and Chelsea assets that they're thinking of moving on, it's your Rashfords, your Brunos, your Sterlings, your Jacksons.
Yeah.
So that's their positions. But yeah, are you getting frustrated with your United and Chelsea assets?
Of course, yeah, you want them to be scoring, right? But if you're moving them on or playing to wildcard, it's like, for me, I'm thinking, to whom, right? Do you know what I mean? Like we said, like some of the driving factors around the players that I kind of pick, and I think same goes for you, Dave, is that you play the fixtures, you play the underlying stats, right? And then when that normally creates those like great outcomes that you want in terms of points. Both Chelsea and United, the underlying stats have been fine, and the fixtures moving forward are good, right? United have got Burnley next. Again, they weren't great on the weekend. They played, obviously they lost to kind of Brighton. Brighton look good. Brighton are a decent team, right? So yeah, it's not like they got hammered by mugs. Their attacking stats were fine again. Same for kind of Chelsea, really. So I just don't see any kind of like viable alternatives other than like one of your questions there. Any standout players, right? So Salah is a standout player, I think, and I didn't go with him game week one. You didn't. A lot of people were put off by Liverpool's fixtures and is Salah regressing, all these sort of things. But like Liverpool on a fantastic run of form, like right from the second half of last season, right? They're on a massive unbeaten streak. I think it's about 20 games that they're unbeaten. They're looking, we said it last week, they're quietly looking really good, right? But Salah at his price point is just very difficult to get to without major team surgery. So if I was moving Sterling to Salah, yeah, I'd do that in a heartbeat, right? But it's just the price point makes it kind of super difficult. So, yeah, I think you're kind of like locked in with those Man United and Chelsea kind of options. And I don't hate it. I don't hate it because it would be a different story if the underlying stats were awful, but the underlying stats are okay, as are the fixtures over the next few. So I'm cool with it. I'm just kind of like, laughing it off as, hey, this is it's just like funny, frustrating, unlucky, just kind of like owning all of these top underperformers, like the guys that have got kind of the least kind of points versus their expected stats, right? So it's good. I mean, like you're not as heavily invested in them as me because you don't have Sterling, do you? Right? But I mean, you've got Bruno, Rashford, and Jackson, and you. I mean, how are you feeling?
Jackson. United one. I mean, Rashford could have quite easily got an assist.
Yep.
Appreciate VAR showed it was out of play. So that got ruled off, but he was in the attacking position still. Again, looking at the stats, they looked to produce, just didn't finish them off. The one frustrating me is Jackson, because he just reminds me of Darwin Núñez from last season. All of the expected goals data, but just doesn't know where the net is. And he's the one. Bruno and Rashford are proven in the Premier League. Last season's points were ridiculous. They've had previous seasons where they've scored very highly. For me, I'm worried now the fact that he isn't putting the ball in the net and Chelsea are struggling to score. Poch might go, right, I need to do something else because Jackson he might be getting in the positions, but he's not scoring the goals. So I'm worried starting this week, Poch might go, right, let's find another solution. Maybe put Sterling down the middle. Maybe, something, go with a different option.
I think I haven't really considered it, but like you might be right. I think his saving grace is who are the alternatives, right? Broja or Sterling down the middle, right? So Jackson's got the benefit that there's just not a huge amount of alternatives that are viable. But there's a bit of a niggling concern for me as well. I think you're right.
Yeah, he's lucky, and Dunku's still injured. Otherwise, he'd be on the bench.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. But Martinelli, I've already touched on that. We won't go into that anymore. Our frustrations were made clear. And then standout players, same as you. Obviously, the price point 12.5 million is just impossible to get to, unless you're wild card or something. But Salah's stats look great. His point output looks great. But anybody else?
But Haaland is a standout, right?
Did anybody?
Like, Haaland is the standout this game week, and Doku looks like he's given him a really good addition to City. Like and his directness and crossing should help Haaland even more. Like moving forward, but like obviously, he's the most highly owned player. But like he was a standout, right? If you're kind of putting up XG of 3, right, and then arguably it should have been closer to 4 if he chose not to miss some open tap-ins. That's a real standout performance, right? I think we kind of kept the faith, but I know last game you were going in with a bit of a skeptical view, saying, "Hey, kind of West Ham's defense is it good about in Man City and whatnot?" But I think it's kind of worth noting that performance, right? Because I think it's kind of rare you see that amount of underlying stats being put out in a single game. That was big.
Don't worry, this week I'm not coming with I think the Forest defense would be really good at the Etihad. I wouldn't be captain. That's not coming this week. Don't you worry about that. There's one
Yeah,
pick and one
they
pick
got
only.
Forest in next, and like I think I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit. We'll talk about it in a second, but like Alvarez, a lot of people had a decision point game week 3 or whatnot. Jackson or Alvarez. Alvarez is like outscored Jackson by 26 points. Like, what a swing! And like the underlying stats favor Jackson a little bit, but like, yeah, well done if you went for that move. I don't think at that time the information that you had to go for Jackson or Alvarez, I don't think going for Alvarez with the info we had at the time was the right decision. So I'm not viewing it as a mistake, more of a missed opportunity. But yeah, if you did take that risk, yeah, wow, it's kind of paid off. And like, yeah, Jackson's got Villa now, and then could be dropped even, and Alvarez has got Forest. They're kind of
then
home,
Wolves.
so fully expecting to be punished again.
Yeah. Well, we'll come on to if I'm bringing him in, but onto the midfield. So I mentioned a lot. I mean, I put Martinelli at the top. It could be any mid because I appreciate a lot of players will be maybe considering Sterling, and a lot definitely are considering selling Bruno and Rashford. So I just thought it was worth looking at. If you are getting rid of a mid, who's going to be the best potential replacement? Now I have to get rid of Martinelli. He's injured. It looks as though he's probably going to be out for 2 weeks if you read the report. So
Yep.
yeah, I've got 7.9 million in him. He's going to drop. I have to. Yeah, he has to go. To go back to what we were saying just a minute ago about the performance of the United players, now they are underperforming their stats, but both of them are in the top 10 for expected points from a midfielder. So Bruno's third. Should have got 32 points. He's only got 19, so he's got half. Rashford is in eighth, higher than Sterling, higher than Maddison, just hasn't delivered. So I asked this question in Game Week 2. I'm going to ask it again. If you had United, well, you have both of them. Would you even consider selling, considering they've got Burnley next?
No. Simple, isn't it?
Yeah. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah. Stats back them up. Hopefully, the fixtures back them up. Hopefully, the points will come.
Yeah.
On that list,
I agree. If they had hard fixtures coming up, that would be a different story. They don't. If they had poor underlying stats and weren't performing, then you wouldn't do that. And it was an interesting point you made, which is very valid. Like, is both those players are kind of proven, right? Yeah. They will get a lot of goals and assists over a season. It's not like a Jackson where we just don't know if they're any good and just a super bad finisher. They're kind of both good players. So yeah, I wouldn't be considering them out. I mean, what's your times? So you're saying who do you want to replace Martinelli with? I think you've mentioned you're looking to wildcard game week 8 potentially. Like, is that your time horizon? Like the next 2-3 weeks that you're looking to get this midfielder in, or do you want them to have a bit more of a longer window?
I can't see me going beyond game week 9. So I think it's going to be, and I think game week 8 for me, the way I'm looking at it is probably going to be the one. So yeah, game week 6, game week 7. If they've got a good game week 8 as well, great. But game week 6 and game week 7 is where I'll probably focus. United, by the way, they've got Burnley, then Palace, then they're at home to Brentford, and then they've got Sheffield United. That's their next 4. So yeah, selling Bruno or Rashford, just that's not something I'm willing to do.
No.
So yeah, but on this list, the one that stands out for me is Bowen. I like Decore, but I don't like Everton. Not because I'm a Liverpool fan. I just don't think Everton are. There's games where they just don't put the ball in the net. So I think he's suffering a bit like Jackson is in that sense. So I'm not comfortable bringing him in. But Bowen, they've got Liverpool next. That puts me off. But then they're at home, I believe, to Sheffield United. So that it's really for game week 7. Oh, Bowen, not game week 6. So
yeah, it's really difficult to say
for this week.
It's really difficult to say who to pick because it's a shame Alvarez isn't a midfielder.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I haven't got 12.5 million. It's a smash on Salah. Because I also thought about what. Go on.
What do you say Bowen's fixtures were? Liverpool.
So he's away at Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then he's at home to Sheffield United. So the next screen will probably help. I've kind of noted there, Bowen looks like the go-to Hammers pick over James Ward-Prowse. So he's got expected points of 28.69. James Ward-Prowse is 22.79. So Bowen's 6 points ahead of him, but he is £1 million more expensive as well. So that's something to consider. In terms of expected points, so this is game week. My logo's in the way. I can't see it. This is game week. Wrong one. That one. Game week 5 to 10. So this is over the next 5. It's going well today. This the whole thing, the logo popping up. But this is for the next five game weeks. And Bowen's on there as well. You know, he's 5th, 3.6. Obviously, there's the Liverpool fixture, but then 5.6 for the Sheffield United fixture. So over those 2 game weeks, expected to get about 9 points. Odegaard, I don't know whether you agree with this. Odegaard in 3rd seems very high.
I agree. I think he's been bad this season. I think the last game he's looked better, and I haven't looked at the underlying stats. He was probably better the last 2 games than the first 3. But yeah, I disagree with kind of the rating there. I mean, looking at this table here, yeah, Bowen probably is the best option for you, right? So next 5 game weeks, top midfielder is for expected points according to Fix is Salah, then Saka, then Odegaard and Bomo, Bowen, Fernandez, Gross, Son, March, and Rashford. So, yeah, I think Bowen probably seems the best bet. And I think the good thing with West Ham is it gives you a bit more flexibility, right? Because West Ham game week 9, game week 10 onwards do have a very nice run. So if you do want to hold that wild card, it kind of like gives you that flex. So, yeah, I kind of agree. Kind of like it's not. No one's screaming out as like a real obvious pick, which is a bit of a challenge, right? But Salah would be the go-to, but yeah, for your price point, Bowen does seem kind of interesting.
Yeah, I suppose you're kind of getting at it there. I'm only bringing in a mid because I have to. Martinelli's injury forces my hand. But from what you're kind of saying there, if I wasn't forced, so instead of Martinelli, say I had Maddison as an example, I'm assuming you're basically saying to people, if you don't have to trade midfielders, don't, because who else? There's no standout, unless you can get to Salah, there's no standout option at all.
I think so, but the obvious ones that are highly owned right already, which is a bit of a dilemma. And I think some people are considering to wildcard this week, and I'd be thinking, who are you wildcarding for? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Alvarez. That's it.
I mean, that's an option for you if you want to downgrade. You got 2 free transfers, right? So you could downgrade Martinelli to a cheaper midfielder that maybe kind of cover some of the tougher game weeks you got, and you could bring in Alvarez if you're confident he's starting. I think you said the Champions League, he's playing the fixture tonight, right? So he kind of might. I doubt he will be rested because he plays as a 10, and there's not a huge amount of alternatives. I think he's the player that a lot of people thought Foden was going to be. Like kind of like start of the season, people thought Foden was going to be in the 10, but I think we said like Foden's always played on the wing, and Alvarez actually played as the 10 when De Bruyne was out last year. But yeah, kind of Alvarez would be an interesting option, but you'd need 2 moves to get there.
Well, he started, but they're getting beat.
Oh, okay.
And there's some breaking news. First podcast to announce it. It looks as though Bernardo Silva's gone off injured. So that opens up, obviously, anybody that's got Foden, people bringing in Doku. Doku's come on for him, by the way. So it's
well, they've only got it's a shout, isn't it? Because I think people who've got a Man City player have got fortunate with injuries, right? Silva's been injured, come back, injured again. Grealish has been out as well, so can't predict these sort of things. But like, it kind of like does suggest, hey, who are they going to play instead of Alvarez? No one.
No option.
No.
Yeah, especially now Bernardo Silva's injured. So yeah, I'm but he's classed as a striker on the game. But that brings us nicely on to let's get rid of Jackson, everybody. And who do we bring in? But there's the question: and we've had this before? Do we get rid of Jackson? So this is the form table. So top 10 players in terms of striker position for expected points over this season. Now, Haaland's always going to be number 1. Jackson is second.
Wow, that's an underperformance in it. So his points that he's got this season at 11, his expected points are 29.
29. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's so expected to have scored just over
Less
4
than he
goals.
should have got.
Yeah, that's kind of great. Eduard's an interesting one. He's just behind
Yeah.
Jackson statistically. All right, 28.78 expected points scored into Fix. He's outperforming his underlying stats. He's got 32 points. Wow, I've never once considered Eduard at all. So, I mean, if Palace ever
Sneaky, isn't
go
he?
on a
4 goals.
yeah, I mean that's quite interesting. I don't know if anything has changed this season because I've always viewed him as a really poor player. But yeah, one to watch there. I think Alvarez is an interesting one there. 37 points that he scored, 37 compared to Jackson's 11. Yet his underlying expected FPL points are just under 27. So like he's running hot, right? He's kind of
Yeah.
outperforming his stats a lot. I think part of that probably is he's feeding in the best and most clinical striker in Haaland, right? So that can probably help and contribute. But you can see he's spread between goals and assists, right? So his expected goals are only less than 2, but then he's got good expected assist stats as well. So um
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, do we get rid of
Yeah.
Jackson based on that? I don't really have many viable options, to be honest. So I'm very likely holding for him. I think I do have a little bit of concern of whether he's going to be dropped, but I think he's playing well. And
Hmm.
it's very cliched saying this, but like he hit the post again on the weekend. If that went in, happy days again, you'll be laughing, right? So um I think his short term fixtures are good enough to hold and avoid burning a valuable transfer, unless like hey, you've got extra transfers in kind of free and you'd bring in Alvarez. I don't know if I'd even bring in Alvarez for Jackson though at this stage. Probably, like if
Yeah.
you put a gun against my head, I'd favour Alvarez now, just because City are better than Chelsea. Alvarez is better than Jackson. So safe to say that, and his expected minutes are probably through the roof. Right, I think he's actually played the most minutes of all the midfielders. That you've got that on the table here in a minute. So Alvarez played
Oh, yeah, for the
449
strikers.
minutes out of the strikers, and only Solanke at 450 minutes has played more, right? So he's
Yeah.
nailed, right? And like we said, Silva's injured now as well, so he's going to play. So yeah, if you were going to burn a transfer or had a choice of Jackson to Alvarez, I'd probably do that move. I think,
Yeah.
even despite the underlying stats, I think we've seen enough. And Forest at home for City is a better game than Villa at home for Chelsea. I think we can say that as well. But for my team, I'm comfortable. I think for you, maybe there's a bit more of a decision to be made.
Yeah. I'm thinking, yeah. And there's a player on this. Well, we'll come on to the fixture ticker in a second because there's somebody that I'm considering. See if you can guess who it is when we get there. There's somebody I'm considering here. I'm going to give it away. I'm thinking of changing formation. So this 3-5-2, I might become back to good old faithful and bring in a 4-3, a 3-4-3. A 4-3-4 would have been good, but no, a 3-4-3 is where I'm thinking of going.
Nice.
So the player's not on this list, and it's yeah. See if you can work out who it is because it's a cliffhanger for you. We'll come on to it when we just look at my reveals. But we're now on to my favourite part. Oh no, we're not. We're predicted points. Of course we are. Predicted points. So this is game week 5 to 10 again. So Jackson is still in there. Jackson's ninth. Alvarez
Yep.
is one place above him in eighth, but it's a 0.5 point difference expected, predicted points over the next 5 game weeks. So an expected point difference, if you average it out of 0.1 a week, is that worth a transfer?
I think you got to add your own assumptions, right? So this is the fixed
Yeah.
predictions, right? I have no idea what minutes assumptions they've put. My
Yeah.
gut feeling is that Alvarez's minutes will be underestimated. I'd be putting him 80 minutes plus. I suspect the model has got it closer to 60, 65 or something like that.
Yeah.
But like over the period you're wildcarding, 4.7. Yeah, well, you want to play for game week 6 and game week 7, don't you? If you're wildcarding game week
Pretty
8, so
much.
that's probably enough of a enough of a swing there, to be honest. I think.
Yeah, 1.2 according to there, but this is the table that the person I'm thinking of isn't on. This is the one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Morris as well. So it's like Morris for game week 7, 7.9, expected to get the more points than Haaland in that game week. I'd be a brave person that captains him, but we'll discuss that.
I think I'm safely saying I probably won't captain
Yeah.
I still probably bring Morris in, but it was a timely reminder. Like today, last week, kind of like last weekend, what he can do. Morris, like, I'm just gonna have to check his stats a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Whether he's actually generally worth a transfer. We know he had a penalty early in the season. Great.
Seen the goal he's got.
Yeah, is he getting any expected goals at all? Or are you just banking on like a solid 4 points and hoping that he started both games and then hopefully he gets a penalty? I need to look into that a little bit more because like some of my transfer plans I'm putting on hold for Luton players, and like Luton are really bad. Like I think we can kind of say that quite safely even after 5 game weeks. Morris, are we just like gambling for a penalty? Like for me, like it, and for others, like you might want to avoid it. I think I'm going down that route, but I'm gonna have a look at like some of his underlying stats a little bit more.
Yeah, which we'll do because we'll bring. No doubt he'll be a big discussion on next week when we're looking at who we're bringing in for game week 7. Because the double game week isn't something you can ignore. I do have some stats later on about the Luton players, so we'll be able to see his data so far this season, plus his expected points for the next 2 game weeks. So I'll show you that. But yeah, I'm assuming then. So I've got that middle question there. Is it worth bringing him in for the game that they've got in game week 6, which is Wolves? Expected points 4. No's the answer. You've answered that one before you even got it. Well, there you go.
It depends, mate. It depends, doesn't it? If you're like desperate to move on a striker, or you're burning a transfer, like if you're getting rid of your third striker, which is, I think, do you have Mbama? I think if you got, I mean, if you can do like there'd be no harm getting Morris in a game weekend.
Just shy of the money, but yeah,
I wouldn't be pushing for that move.
Yeah,
and as you've seen this game week, like reserving transfers, like when there's not a real obvious choice, is quite a good thing. Like, so I think you kind of like did a good move, right? Of holding on to Martinelli, not bringing in Maddison and Son, because now you got the 2 transfers to make a decision, and you don't have to use both of them, right? I think that's something to keep in mind. So I wouldn't be really bringing in Morris ahead of game week 7. No,
I don't think I'm going to. I've got some ideas, but yeah, the one thing that you're teaching me that is that there's the more data, the better, and don't feel pressed that you have to do a transfer. But yeah,
makes for a shit pod, doesn't it? Makes for a shit pod when we're saying what we're doing, nothing.
Don't do transfers. We're doing nothing. Just gonna roll every game week. That's how you win. That's how you win.
5 minutes. 5 minutes rather than like an hour and a half.
We'll talk about that. Questions for map time. This is my favourite part. So shout out to the submissions, Grandmaster, Wally, and then we'll come on to transfer question of the week. But FPL Grand or Grandmaster, similar position to you. His question is: if you have 3 Chelsea assets, 2 United, and no Spurs or Liverpool, is a wildcard now a must?
No. But I will expand. No. Liverpool and Spurs have 2 tough kind of fixtures. Obviously, they're good teams, right? But they have some tough fixtures. We've widely spoke about Spurs, right, with Arsenal and Liverpool next. Liverpool got, who have they got like this game week? Who are you playing that week? West Ham.
West Ham and then Tottenham.
Yeah, 2 tough fixtures, right? 2 tough fixtures. We'll ignore Man City blowing West Ham away because I think they're just like the exceptional team right at the moment. But like, those are 2 tough fixtures. So no, and you'd be getting rid of Burnley this week, and then there's Palace. Palace is a tougher game, but Burnley and Palace for United, and then Chelsea have got Who have they got? I know they've
So we've
got
got Villa, then
Villa,
Fulham,
Fulham. Fulham have been looking
then
good, but
Burnley.
I do think they're still leaky from a defensive point of view. Leno's putting them in hell of a lot of save points, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I do think Fulham are a leaky team, and then they've got Burnley the following week. So I yeah, that's one of the things why we're all feeling quite frustrated with these players, but it's not the optimal time to wild card to these different teams because they have difficult fixtures themselves. So I think um yeah, I think you kind of hold it.
yeah, yeah. Wally. It says he can't buy a clean sheet. Nor can I. I think in the 20 attempts I've had this season, I have achieved 2. So I was very interested in this question. So is it a good tactic instead of spending money on the defense, get 4 or 5 defenders of 5 million or less, and just set them as a set and forget, and just basically put 3 of them on the pitch?
Um, so it's been a bit of a surprising start of the season with like clean sheets, right? They've been really rare. Um, we're not smart enough to do this, but I bet if we did and did a bit of research, I bet like this year has been like really low for clean sheets at the start of the season versus other ones. Obviously, there's always a lot of goals and teams are a little bit more open, but this season does feel quite exceptional and definitely different from the norm. Um, I don't think price point really matters. Do you know what I mean? There's the question like, what expensive defenders have you got really? Because like there's only really two proper premium defenders at the
Yeah,
moment that are costing a lot there,
Trippier,
which is
Trent.
Trent and Trippier. Right. I
Yeah,
think most other options are 5 million or less anyway, right? Unless so, if you got a team that's got literally 5.5 options throughout, like yeah, if you can move a transfer, move away from them. But yeah, I think you just want to go for solid um players that can get an attacking return, but play for good defensive teams with good fixtures moving forward. Really, I wouldn't be looking at the price point per se because you'll be looking at the price point of your wild carding to bring in Salah, for example, right? Because you need to free up funds. But I think in most instances at the moment, people are only getting Salah if they're wild carding. I don't think downgrading a few defenders is going to at this stage is going to free up cash for Salah. So yeah, I'd be looking. I'd be ignoring the kind of price point to an extent. You just want to be targeting clean sheet odds, and it generally does work over the long term. I mean, um, Newcastle are probably the team to target, and that's not just because they got a clean sheet tonight against Milan and a clean sheet against Brentford. It's because they've had good underlying defensive data for a while, even despite having a really difficult start to the season. So if you want to go for some cheap defenders, you got Shah, you got Botman, right? Botman's
yeah,
fantastic value. You got Burn. So I think there's kind of value in some teams for sure. Yeah, would I explicitly go for a plan where I've got like 4.5 defenders and just kind of rotate them? Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
yeah,
But I think there are cheap options for good teams that have good run of fixtures coming up. So yeah, Newcastle is the pick of those teams from a defensive point of view, and they've got Botman and Burn and Shah who are all less than 5 million, right? So yeah, winner like
yeah.
they're a winner, like in my view.
There you go. Wally, just get 3 Newcastle defenders in and you're sorted. Um,
It's probably a viable
but they
tactic, though,
actually,
isn't it? Yeah.
for their fixtures, they look, yeah, they like you
Mm.
said, they look pretty solid. But interesting point you made because you mentioned there about the stats, their underlying stats. They played Liverpool, they played Man City in the opening 4 game weeks, and yet their stats look absolutely solid from a defensive point of view. Now, Stats D says stuff. Says alternating keepers getting them nowhere. Is it sensible to stick with somebody like Pope now that Newcastle's fixtures have changed? So this proves your point. So here are the stats for the keepers over the opening 5 game weeks, and you'll see with Pope, expected goals conceded is just 5.87. Now, only Edison on that list is better. Maybe Flecken just, but Flecken's had much easier fixtures. Pope's played Liverpool and he's played City. That's arguably the 2 best attacks in the league.
Yeah.
But the stats are great. I want to know where his expected goal of 0.05 came from. By the way, apparently he's had a shot on a shot. Don't know when that happened.
Yeah, fair play. Look at that goal threat. He's going to get a goal, at least one goal in the season if he keeps up that rate.
The only keeper with an expected goal threat on the list.
No, he's looking good. So what's this filtering? What's this filtered by expected points for the season? Yeah. So Sanchez, Vicario, Edison, Allison, Neto, Flecken, Leno, Pope, Turner, Areola. So yeah, I think obviously I was looking at kind of like performance up until now. Pope is a good option moving forward. He's expensive though, right? Do you want to be paying 5.5 for a keeper? That's probably the dilemma that you have to face yourself. But ignoring price, Pope is a really good option. I think the question was saying rotating keepers is difficult, and should I just go for a set? Can I get a set and forget? I don't think anyone's really got rotating keepers. Really, I think a lot of people have a 4.5 and Turner, right?
Yeah.
And Turner was really just brought in for 2 fixtures, like the game week 2 and the last game week 5, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of rotating keepers. It's not something I would usually do. I'm only doing it probably like a lot of people because there's a 4.0 option, right? So if I was a wild card, I'd probably bring in Areola maybe as an option. So I'm not bringing him explicitly to rotate. It's just a nice added benefit, right?
Yeah.
And then I'd probably have like another 4.5 keeper really to like use as my set and forget. But the keepers that I'd be looking at myself moving forward would be Pope, of course, but price point I think could be a problem. Flecken and Leonard, kind of like and
Check
Leonard.
that out. The top 3 for expected points. There you go. You do know what you're talking about.
And I think, to be honest, you could get away with any of them, any of these as a set and regret over the next kind of couple of game weeks. I think the benefits Flecken and Leno have over Pope is that I think they will make more save points, and also Pope you can cover. I know we said we don't generally want to cover teams, but you can cover Newcastle defense probably better by getting one of their really cheap defenders. Botman is $1 million less than Pope. I think there's more value to be had in those defenders. Leno and Flecken, I don't with Rico Henry unfortunately been out for the season now. Like Flecken is their most viable option in the Brentford defense. Leno, he's the most viable option in the Fulham defense as well. So I think any of those 3 could be a kind of set and forget kind of choice. Like Leno, the benefit, Flecken, the benefit he's got is he's just part of a very solid team, like a really good team. Leno, the benefit he's got is just, it seems the way Fulham are set up is that they're just conceding loads of low XG shots, loads of like long range kind of shots, and we've seen it with. I think Leno's the player we thought Pickford was going to be, right? Like it's the classic stereotype of a Sean Dyche team that they can see that they're really tight, they're really narrow, they make the opposition shoot from distance, and then it's great for the keeper to hover up those save points. That hasn't happened yet for Pickford, unfortunately, but for Leno, it's happening, right? And I think it was the same last season, right? So I think he's a good option. So I think those are 3 that I'd be looking at for set and forget. And I agree with those fix predictions there.
Well, that's interesting because if we go back to this one, you'll see Leno. So Fulham's expected goals conceded over 5 games is 12.62, which isn't very good. Expected clean sheets of 0.55. Yeah, he's top of the goalkeeper chart. So you've what you're saying there about the way Fulham plays into his hands. There you go. On to looking forward and looking at the fixture ticker. So here is the attack. Unsurprisingly, Luton and Burnley are top because of that double game week coming up in game week 7. How much you read into that is a different matter when Burnley also have United and Chelsea and Brentford to come. But they do. And one of those double fixtures is Newcastle, a tough game for them as well. Looking at the attacks, is there anybody on here that you're looking at and thinking, I like that run, there's an attacker that I'd like to look at over the next couple of game weeks?
I think you can. So Luton and Burnley are best. Villa, Newcastle, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Brentford, Palace, Everton, Arsenal over the next 5. Luton and Burnley, let's discount it because they're artificially inflated because they're game week 7 double game week, right? So if we ignore that, then it looks less positive. I mean, there's lots of good players, lots of good teams there, right? Which is interesting. So teams you'd be interested in getting players from are Villa, Newcastle, Liverpool, Brentford, Palace, and kind of Arsenal, really, right? So I think Newcastle is just tough in it. Who would you get if it's just looking from an attacking point of view? Who would you actually go for? Because of this Champions League at the moment, Isak and Wilson are rotating. So if you nail that one, you'll probably be rewarded. But like for me, it's not worth the rotation risk at the moment. The same has happened for their wingers, right? You've got 4 wingers now that are kind of like fighting for 2 positions, right? So you've got Almiron, you've got Barnes.
Gordon seems to be a starter, but he's
getting subbed on 60 though, isn't he, for kind of Barnes, or Almiron. So there's a bit of rotation there. So it's tough to tap into that attack. I mean, Villa attack is nice. I kind of really like Diaby. Watkins obviously kind of always kind of great, but he's off pens now. Like you go Diaby for cheaper, which is really cool. So game week 7 onwards, that's a really nice run, like from an attacking point of view. We've spoken about Salah. If there was another kind of Liverpool, a non-Diaz, non-Salah kind of like attacker that was to nail on a position, they'd be like gold dust, right? If one of Jota or Nunez starts a kind of run of fixtures, they'll be kind of like golden. So I mean, there's a few new teams we haven't seen much of, like Villa and Newcastle, ones that stand out. We know Liverpool are looking good, and like look at they got some tougher fixtures now. West Ham, Tottenham, Brighton, but then Everton, Forest, and then they go on a really nice run from game week 9 onwards. And they're one of the teams that I know a lot of people are targeted for wildcard. I'm just trying to see if there's any like for you.
Oh, this is it. So that
Newcastle
cliffhanger, I'm gonna put you out your misery. Exactly that. So it's game week 6 and 7 is where I'm focusing. And game week 8, I don't mind. I don't even know if I do hold on till game week 9. I'll see how my team looks coming into game week 8. But
Morris should be going for, according to this, though.
Morris, top of the list. And I might get rid of Jackson because Chelsea aren't on this list. But I think it's because their fixtures turn game week
really bad,
9 and just go. Yeah, really. Well, Brentford and Arsenal coming up. But as part of the fun and those things that you always talk to me about how I go and do like just random things. Well, this could be one of those weeks. I'm looking at game week 6 and 7 as a focus, and in those game weeks, Newcastle, without a doubt, have the best fixtures. They're playing Sheffield United and Burnley. I'm going to take a gamble on Isak or Wilson, I think, but we'll come on to it when we go into my team. But that is what I'm considering.
Yeah,
you're laughing. You can laugh even more when I tell you what I'm actually going to do. But this is the defensive side. So again, inflated Luton and Burnley at the top. But you mentioned before, Newcastle looking like solid defensive numbers, got really nice fixtures. They sit 3rd, followed by then Brentford, Bournemouth, Villa, Man United, Arsenal, West Ham, and Fulham for those Leno owners. But this just backs up what you said before about Newcastle being a great defensive team to target.
I kind of really. That's one of the reasons why I really regret moving Gabriel to Doggy last kind of game week, because if I didn't do that, I would certainly be bringing in a Newcastle defender this week. One of the reasons why I didn't bring a Newcastle defender in, or just kind of rolled the transfer game last game week, was I just thought, I've got Ruben Diaz who I can play every single game week, but Man City, we've just got that kind of like really annoying defense that's really good but leaks a single goal. So if you need to bring a defender in and you've got like a transfer spare and no other burning kind of platforms, I think a Newcastle defender in is a smart decision, whether or not you're wildcarding, right? So Sheffield United and Burnley, 2 great games from a defensive point of view, and then West Ham, which is slightly different, kind of more difficult. But I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they had 2 clean sheets the next 2, right? 100%. 100%. So yeah, they're the standout for sure, and they're the standout.
Yeah, them are even potentially for the next two again. Man United, even over the next four, apart from maybe game week 8. Palace are decent, don't get me wrong, but Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United, nice fixtures. It's just United's defense just doesn't look at it, whereas Newcastle's defense is backed up by the stats. So
Here's a
I suppose
question.
that's
Here's a
the
question.
main difference.
Here's a question for you. I'm considering bringing in a defender for game week 7. I'll probably roll this game week. I'll probably bring in someone for Stupinan on game week 7. Would you favour a Luton defender, Everton away and Burnley at home, or a Newcastle defender, just Burnley at home for one game week only?
Who's the Newcastle defender? Is it
Yeah, true.
Trippier or Shah?
Yeah. A non-Trippier. It's a Botman or a Shah
Non-Trippier.
versus a whoever the hell the that's Luton defender is.
Yeah.
Gabore, I don't know.
What watching Forest versus Burnley yesterday. Burnley had a little bit about them after the first 20 minutes. Forest battered them for 20 minutes, but then Burnley had a little bit about them going forward. I can't think of the lad's name on the left wing. They looked at an absolute handful. For me, the chance of 2 clean sheets is better than the chance of 1. But you finish in the top 10,000 every season, and I don't. So you make up your mind. I'd just play for the points. You've got a base of 4 with the chance of 2 clean sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And even if Shah gets a clean sheet, he's only getting 6. So I'm willing to gamble those 2 points to give himself 2 matches.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
I agree. Even if like the Newcastle odds for a clean sheet are like 50%, I think the Luton ones, you probably cumulatively they'll be worth more than that 50% odds of getting at least one thing. Looking at this, I think I've really, not rolling that transfers has screwed me over a little bit, because it'd been great to have brought a Newcastle defender in this game week and then played them game week 7, and then I could have brought in like the Luton goalkeeper. Like, keepers always score well on double game weeks, right? I still might look at that option, get rid of Pickford, and then bring in like the Luton or Burnley kind of keepers. But I've kind of put myself in a bit more of a difficult position, I think, by kind of moving through Udogi and using up that transfer. Oh well. But
you live and learn.
Live and learn. But keepers are great over double game weeks. There's always a haul in them. They're always near the top scores over double game weeks. So I think a Burnley or Luton keeper in for Pickford or
the other two. Just for fixtures, you're probably leaning towards, at least Luton have a home game. Everton aren't as good as Newcastle, so I think out of the two, I'd probably lean Luton.
Yeah, agree.
But let's put you out your misery. Game week reveal for me. Now you'll see there's a lot of text down the right, because I've got a lot of thoughts. But there's my base team.
It's a lot of words, yeah.
Pickford. Yeah, I'll run you through it very quickly. Don't worry, we won't be here it's too long. But Pickford, I'm going to play Pickford over Turner because Man City away for Turner. He'll probably concede 4. I expect Pickford to concede away at Brentford as well, but I just think he'll concede less. So hopefully, he'll get some save points as well.
Turner's going to be dropped as well. I think the rumor is right. With they've got they've got a Greek number 1, haven't they? That they've brought in. So I think, there is a risk. There is a risk anyway that he'll be dropped sometime soon.
So I think he'll be moving out regardless on the wild card. And then Areola being the cheap option. Chilwell, not overly happy with him playing, but again, looking at the other defensive options I've got on the bench, I've got Baldock. He's injured. I've got Cash. He's away at Chelsea. I might play Cash because Chelsea aren't scoring, but the stats look decent. So if I look at it, it's Chilwell versus Cash. That's the battle. Who do I want? Cash for me will start. They're both very attacking. Do I think Chelsea have got more chance to score, or do I think Villa have got more chance to score? And I think Chelsea probably got a better chance of scoring, which is why Chilwell's on the pitch at the minute. But I might exchange. It depends on the transfers. The Stupinan at home to Bournemouth, happy. Ruben Diaz at home to Forest, happy with that. Midfield, again, apart from Martinelli and Mbeumo at home to Everton, Rashford and Fernandes away at Burnley, and then Saka at home to Tottenham.
Mhm.
Not a great fixture for Saka, but again, he can score in pretty much any game. And then up front, Jackson at home to Villa, Haaland captained against Forest. So yeah, the initial thoughts: Martinelli needs to go, not perform a potential injury, and I'm also getting increasingly frustrated with Jackson. So I've got the 2 free transfers. So initially, I was thinking just sell Martinelli, get in Bowen,
Yep.
carry the other. Now that would mean I've got Bowen for the Liverpool game, which doesn't feel great, but he's then there for the Sheffield United game, the game week after.
Mhm.
I don't mind playing him against Liverpool. Again, Liverpool's defense isn't the best. With they concede, so I don't mind. I don't mind having Bowen for that game. But more importantly, it leaves me 1.5 million in the bank, and that is enough to turn Mubama into Morris in game week 7.
Yep. I hear
I
you.
could also do so the money in the bank makes a need. So I could also do Martinelli to Bowen, and then use the second transfer to do Jackson to Alvarez just for the better fixture. What I'm really leaning towards is this next piece. So I'm likely to get wildcard as in game week 8, and I want to take a 2-week punt. So
Yep.
I mentioned before about changing from this 3-5-2 to a potential 3-4-3. So it's get rid of Martinelli for somebody like Star, 4.6 million, going to sit on the bench. He'll get 2 points if he comes on. But it also gives me the money to move Mubama to Wilson, and he'd be the one I'd gamble on. Now, the reason is he started the last Premier League game. Isaac's now started Europe. I think, therefore, Wilson will play the next Premier League game. Isaac will get the cup. Then back to Wilson Premier League, back to Isaac for the Champions League. That's the way I'm viewing it. And I just love those fixtures. So I don't know whether I'm prepared to take that gamble, but that's what I'm leaning to at the minute. And then I could still take them. I probably won't, but I could also take the -4, Jackson out, Alvarez in.
Yep.
Or I'll look at the defence of Newcastle instead. So I'd do Martinelli to. I mean, Baldock. I don't want to. The thing that's worrying me is if Jackson could get dropped. I also think Diaz could get dropped because it's Pep, and Pep loves playing roulette.
Yep.
Baldock isn't seeing the pitch. Mubama isn't seeing the pitch. So I've got too many players that I've got a chance of not playing. So I'd want to change Baldock to a Newcastle defender, and that means dropping Martinelli to a James Ward-Prowse, not a Bowen. That
What's the,
bottom one where it gives me the 1.5 in the bank, so Baldock to Shah, Martinelli to JWP,
Mhm.
leaves me 1.5 in the million in the bank, which means next week I can do Mubama straight to Morris. So yeah, that's information overload, Matt. But which ones look stupid? Which ones make sense? That's crazy. Take your pick.
What do you think the chances are of Chilwell start then? Do you think it was a 1 game week
I think it's
thing?
1. I think he'll play. I think it's a 1-week thing. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he'll play.
Mudryk wasn't great, was he?
No. In
And
fact, I think I'm pretty sure Poch came out and said something about he needs to be able to read the game better. So yeah, even Poch clearly wasn't happy with him.
yeah, I think let's Chilwell for me. I think he'll start, but we'll give him one more game week. So yeah, I mean that kind of helps with your decision making if he's going to play. I think when it comes to fantasy, like getting players who are guaranteed to play as close to 90 minutes as possible, guaranteed, is really important part of it. Wilson
It's
really
not
doesn't.
guaranteed. Granted,
It really doesn't guarantee it, and like you could hit the jackpot, but you could also get screwed over. You could get 20 minutes, and people may say, "Hey, super sub me will get a goal." I mean, like you want your players to be starting and playing like 70 minutes to 80 minutes plus, right? So I think for me that seems it doesn't seem ideal, right? They
it's
played on a
classic
Tuesday
Dave, isn't
night
it?
as
It's a
well, right?
classic Dave move.
Um,
Yeah,
certainly
and I
doing a
don't think that they
-4 to
now.
take.
Yeah, I won't do the -4, but yeah, they played today. But I'm pretty sure their Premier League game's Sunday, so
Yeah,
they have got time.
I mean, how much is like that move? You want to go Martinelli, Saab, and Bama to someone else? Like, could you afford Alvarez?
Yeah,
That would be a better move, in my opinion, given what we've said around Silva and Grealish being out, and like they kind of have to play him, and he's got Forest at home, and then another half decent fixture. He just plays for the best team. That is a variation that I think I prefer on that one because it's got more minutes. I think the option that I like the most is probably you're targeting the Newcastle defence really, because we've looked at the fixtures and they're hot from an attacking point of view, but particularly from a defensive point of view. And you've made a good point around you may be low on defenders, right? Chilwell may not play; he probably will.
Yeah,
Diaz might kind of like come out at any given time. So I kind of like the second option. I mean, can Ward-Prowse? What's the difference between Ward-Prowse and Bowen in terms of price?
$1 million.
So you want the
So
1.5 million in your bank because you want to go Mbama to Morris next week. It sounds like you don't like Jackson. You could move Jackson.
I could, but next week he's got Fulham. So it's like you look at the fixture and it feels wrong to take him out.
Who are you going to bench next? Who would you bench then?
Well, this is it, because it'd be, that's the difficult choice, because all those front eight I'd all have reasonable fixtures.
So would West Ham.
So
West Ham is bringing them in for a really good thing. So that's something to consider.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd definitely play JW. I'd definitely play James Ward-Prowse if I get him. But yeah, I know what I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, Martinelli to Bowen is a cool move, right? And then because you don't need to make a transfer, right? Do you? Like, I think you got a perfectly acceptable defense there, and cash can come in, right? You got attacking Chilwell, a Stupinham with a great fixture. Who knows if he's dropped for Lamptey, but we would assume not. You got Ruin Diaz on paper and a great thing, so you don't need to make a move, right? So, like, it's always good having that flexibility of having 2 free transfers. You don't have to use them. So, Martinez to Bowen sounds like a sensible kind of option. I think of your other ones, I would probably favour Martinelli to a Bowen or Ward-Prowse, and then Baldock to Shah.
Yeah.
Or Botman if you prefer him as an option. So and then then it saves you a bench and dilemma. Game week 7, you go Jackson to Morris.
Yeah. I think doing that
sorry,
as well.
I've added to your list of like considerations. But
yeah, but it's
I
then
like
made
Wilson
me consider.
option.
I think I'd be 0.1 shy. I just thought thinking about it then, because I could do Martinelli to James Ward-Prowse, Baldock to Botman. Sorry, no, Martinelli to Bowen, Baldock to Botman. It'd leave me $1 million in the bank, and I need 1.1 to get Morris. So I'd be 0.1 shy. That's a shame. That would have been nice.
I mean, what you're gonna have next week is as a lot of people we have is a benching dilemma.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in Morris or Mbama, you're thinking who in your midfield would you and strikers would you bench? Would you bench Mbama? Probably not. Would you bench Bowen or Ward-Prowse if you bring him? Ward-Prowse you'd probably bench, I think, but Bowen would you bench?
No,
probably not.
He's got Sheffield United.
Fair enough.
So
you wouldn't bench Ward-Prowse or Bowen. Rashford maybe, but that's kind of Rashford. Saka you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Fernandes
Saka is playing Bournemouth. You've got then United are playing Crystal Palace at home.
Yeah, that's almost like the toughest game you got. So
away at Forest.
So it kind of helps you a little bit.
Yeah, because then it saves the headache. So yeah, the Newcastle defense might be the better route. It's just then who do we get in instead of Martinelli?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, because if I get no, I don't have the issue, do I? Because I just bench Mbama, obviously, and then play the front 7 as it is instead of Ward-Prowse instead of Martinelli. But I've got a better defense option. Yeah. Okay. I get that.
I think that kind of screams out as the best. I mean, if you were to bring in Trippier, what would you do? Who would you bench this week?
If it was to bring in Trippier, I would bench Chilwell.
Okay. I mean that's a fair. I think Trippier is a better option than Chilwell this week.
Yeah. And next week for that matter.
Yeah.
That's something I could toy with, because obviously Chilwell's much more expensive than Baldock, so I could free up some funds. But yeah, if I do get the Newcastle defender in for Baldock, Chilwell's hitting the bench. So
this game week you play Chilwell next game week, and then you bench a Stupinham the week after that. Sorry, and you bench a Stupinham. Yeah. So I think the Newcastle defense is a interesting option for you. And I think, based on what you were sharing before, probably a West Ham midfielder, Bowen, and then Ward-Prowse as a second option becomes kind of interesting. So, that's kind of where my head is at. I mean, I wouldn't be using two transfers. Two transfers are really valuable. I wouldn't use two transfers purely to get in Wilson. That seems wasteful for someone who's not guaranteed to play. But this isn't me telling you what moves to do. I'm just kind of saving it to kind of share my thought
absolutely.
process.
I think from what you've said,
better option than Wilson.
Yeah, I think from what was saying, I might move. Well, Martinelli has to go. It's just then whether I can not go trigger happy thinking another. But I think Martinelli to Bowen, I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it leaves 1.5 in the bank, so that could very easily be Baldock to Shah, getting the Newcastle defender this week, play him instead of Chilwell. Or as you say, leave it in the bank. 2 free transfers next week. We'll see. We'll see how we get on.
If you have 2 next week, it's powerful as well. If you have 2 next week, you can get in a double game week goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Or a double game week defender, as well as a Morris.
Yeah. So you could get like 2 double game week players. But then I get back to my headache of, well, which one of the front 8 do we not play? So, Eddie, but yeah, it'll be Jackson knowing me, and he'll bang. But let's have a look at your team. So, what are your thoughts? You kind of mentioned before that you're looking to roll. I say your doggies on the bench. It looks very similar to. I think the only difference is you've got Sterling, and I've got the injured Martinelli.
Yeah. So I think looking at this team, I think the obvious option is to roll. I think looking at this team, this is kind of why I'm okay without a Newcastle defender, to be honest. If Chilwell plays and he's just playing as the left winger, then that's a good option. If Diaz plays home at Forest, that's a nice option. If Stupinan is back and plays, that's a great option. There's obviously a small rotation risk with all of them, but I'm happy to kind of roll. My midfield is really I'm really satisfied with my midfield, Sterling had good stats again, like last game week. He hit the post. I think he had XG of about 0.6, which is really good numbers again. So I'm happy with Sterling. Same with kind of Jackson. So I can't see any options which makes the team more optimal. I could go Diaz to Trippier. I could bring in Botman or Shah for one of the kind of other defenders I've got, but I don't really need to do it. And then I can have 2 transfers ahead of a double game week, right? So that gives me like the kind of flex. So I'm 90% certain I'll kind of like roll unless I get some kind of unless it's injuries or I get like real concerns around whether my defenders are starting. I put in Chilwell's dropped minutes like as a discussion point. Has he been dropped? I think that Posh was just trying something else out with Mudryk. It's kind of like a bit annoying that he can definitely considers like Chilwell now as a left midfielder and a left winger rather than a left back. That's not great, but I think the comments around Mudryk after the game and Mudryk's kind of performance, like I think they kind of probably warrant Chilwell coming back. They tried something else to try and get goals. I think Chilwell's performances have been better, right? So, and I think you want someone a bit more disciplined against the better team in Villa. So, I expect Chilwell to be back. So, short term, I'm kind of okay with him. It's not ideal, but I'm kind of like okay. And then, how important are Luton players? I put that on there because a lot of I'm going to have a benching dilemma in game week 7 for sure because I'm working towards Morris in, but Morris fought in Bama. I'll have enough money in the in the bank to do so. Who the hell am I going to drop out of Jackson, Haaland, Rashford, Saka, Sterling, Fernandez, and Mbomo? It's looking like I've got to drop either Jackson or Rashford. So like it feels like
neither feel great.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just one of those things, right? But like that doesn't feel great. And also I'm probably considering getting a Luton defender in for a Stupinan as well. Like so kind of like so It feels like, yeah, am I making a bit of a mistake going like fully in on Luton players for like such a terrible team? But double game weeks draw us in, and I guess it's like that kind of ability to
Absolutely.
roll those dice twice. It does mean you get twice as good at odds, right? Getting a return.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, you
but
mentioned
yeah,
about the Luton players, so I bought in this table. So I'll move that logo again so people can see what the tops are. But again, it's listed by expected FPL points, but Morris obviously top of that list. So you were interested before about his actual stats. So he's scored once and he's got 1 assist all season. His expected assists for the season, 5 games, 0.29. His expected goals are 1.26. Now he took a penalty, which
that's
is
really
probably
bad.
what,
Yeah,
0.8
yeah,
of that.
0.8. So without,
So if you
yeah,
take the penalty out, he's been expected to score 0.46 in 5 games.
yeah, that's not great, is it?
Not at all.
That ain't
So,
great.
yeah.
Um,
So does that make you, interestingly, now you've seen the stats, does that make you rethink the idea of I need to get him in for double game week, or are you just drawn in because it's double game week?
it's enough for me to sit and consider. I expect I'll probably be drawn in just because his floor will be 2 points. You'd expect unless he gets yellow cards.
Yeah.
That's another thing about Jackson that we haven't mentioned. It's really annoying that he gets a yellow card every single game. I think
Yeah.
he's won
Five
it.
game weeks, he's had 4.
Yeah, mad, right? And like he's 1 game away from it. He might be suspended for this, Jackson. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what a
Absolutely.
disaster he's been. But yeah, I mean these stats are awful for kind of Morris, right? Kind of like if you exclude that kind of penalty. So yeah, like we could be making a big.
But
I'm not going to captain him. I'm very confident I won't captain him like based on this, but
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
probably still bring him in just for that nice floor of at least kind of like 4 points, and anything on top of that. Happy days, you're in a double digit kind of like return.
Yeah. You'll
The
take.
defenders, who we got here, like in terms of like minutes
Yeah.
is an important thing for a defender, right? So I think Bella's a defender, isn't he?
Bell seems to shout.
Kaminsky
So yeah,
is,
we should say obviously 360 is the maximum a player can play because they've only played 4 games.
yeah.
So Bell's played every minute, and looks to, in terms of from the defenders at least, he's got 0.56 expected goals, so seems to be the one that gets the most forward as
Hmm.
well.
Is he a defender? Like this is the
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
weird thing about
yeah,
fantasy. You like kind of have random players that you would never really
yeah, yeah. So
think.
basically, all of those players that are 4 million, only a defender can be 4 million apart from a keeper. So all 4 of those, um, one might be the keeper in all fairness, but Bell's definitely a defender.
Yeah, cool. Kabori's stats look good, don't they? But is he nailed to play every game? Look at that. Like kind of like those are decent attacking returns for a defender. Look at those expected assists.
1.1
Um,
expected assists. I don't know. Do you know if he won the penalty, would that jump the expected assists up? I don't know whether he did.
yeah, I
It
think
just
it.
might be an interesting.
I think it would, but it's interesting. A lot of people started with Kabore as their 4.0 rather than Bulldog.
Yeah,
If we did that, like happy days, right? Because you've got that player already in your squad, and you don't have to burn a transfer on it. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to look at this too much, but like, yeah, like Bella's looking all right. Kabore, if he's nailed, looks all right. Morris looks incredibly underwhelming, right? It's all based on that kind of 1 pen. So um,
yeah.
they're a
Well,
poor team.
according again to Fix's predicted points, this is how they come up. So this is just pure game week 7 in isolation.
Hmm.
Cabore's fourth.
Okay, yeah.
Their keeper is third for expected points, and obviously Morris is top of the shot ahead of Haaland. So if you go on the expected points, the predicted points very much do
Yeah.
jump on them. But yeah, as you've always said, you've got to be careful of what the um, what algorithms being used to predict the points.
Mm. Um, yeah, Kabore looks good based on this. So it's all about like, yeah, does he get minutes in extra games and whatnot? It'd be a disaster, I mean, if you brought in a Luton player. Like I think Giles is a Luton player who I think gets a lot of minutes as well. But like if you've got a Luton player like a defender or a striker or any whatever position, they played 1 game in the double game week. That would be like an absolute nightmare, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
given their like low ceiling.
Subbed off in the 50th minute.
Yeah, no, that'd be a disaster. But yeah, this kind of reassuring. So like, hey, kind of Morris and Kabore, Kaminsky, if you're looking to move a goalkeeper, they're all looking good. 7.2 predicted points for Kaminsky, 7.9 for Morris, and 6.45 for Kabore. They're all good, cool numbers. So I have no doubt I'll get drawn in. But I'm feeling a little bit more cautious, bit more nervous after looking at those underlying stats for the first 5 game weeks. They've been poor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end. Can't be any worse next week, right, Matt?
It's only the start, right?
Can't be any worse than
worst game week of my life. Worst game week in your life yet. Like,
worst game of the week of my life yet.
Yeah.
Back to back. Why not? Just to why I'm expecting. I'll be honest. If I'm captain, I will be Captain Haaland, and I expect him to beat on his own with the captain's armbands my entire score from last week. Hopefully. But yeah, Matt, thank you as always for joining us. A bit of a longer session today, but obviously quite a lot to get into, considering our game week 5s and a lot of discussion points in terms of a lot of players taking out the midfielders and taking out the strikers. So yeah, a lot to get our teeth into. So appreciate you joining me, and hopefully you'll be back next week, unless you're getting bored of the mentorship.
I don't think I'm offering much value or benefit, but watch me, like I'm kind of rooting against. I'm kind of going against kind of Wilson here. He's gonna bag it. Like that's gonna be inevitable.
It's gonna be Onana. Hey, you lost me points with Onana, as you said at the beginning of the season, but over time he's done nothing. So you were right. You were right with what you said.
I think he's still ahead based on that one game week, that one very lucky game week. He's still ahead of where Pickford would be, but yeah, man, it's all good. This does feel like a bit of a crossroads week where there's not a huge amount of options to do that you can do, right?
Yeah.
Like we're looking at the midfielders, and it feels like a lot of people, probably ourselves included, we're like really desperate and keen to move our midfielders options. But like just because of the fixtures of other teams and price points, it's really hard to move them. So like it feels like Newcastle defense does feel like a no-brainer for loads of people if that you got 2 free transfers or a really stinking defense. But even then, you're taking a bit of a risk, right? Because you've got Chilwell, you've got Estupinan, you've got Diaz. They're all looking pretty good. So it's one of those weird ones, isn't it? Like sometimes, hopefully, I enjoyed the discussion as well. But I don't know, like listeners and kind of viewers, like if probably maybe felt it's a little bit less engaging. But just the way fixtures land, isn't it? Really, like it's like
but
it's a real tough one.
The interesting thing for us though is, as active, engaged managers, look, we're the ones that are like, no, we need to move a midfielder, we need to move midfielders, we need to move the strikers, we need to get rid of Jackson. So to hear I say this every week, but to hear the thoughts and how you think is one of the best managers that's ever played the game, compared to how we think, that's what I get out of this, and hopefully then what also people are thankful, and we are thankful for them to join us. Hopefully, what they're getting out of it as well. So it's never feel bad about that. You're the go-to. You're number 6 in the world. We're not. So it's all relative. It's worth listening to.
It's just kind of weird couple of game weeks, like from like now till 8. I think that's when the sparks will start. Well, there's a double game week coming up, which is like super interesting. And then game week 8, game week 9, we get those massive fixture swings, right? So that's when it gets interesting and like, you can kind of really kickstart your season, right? If you've had a slow start. So I think there's a bit of a need to tread water a little bit next couple of weeks, and hopefully, hey, those underlying stats will come through for the likes of Jackson and the City the United kind of midfielders, and hey, we kind of go up the kind of ranks. But I'm looking forward to the kind of game week 7 to game week 9. I think that's going to be interesting couple of weeks with some big swings and lots of decisions. I think these ones are a bit dry where there's not too many decisions to make.
So looking for, hence why the 2 free transfers going into game week 7 is your option. But yeah, well, I'll join you again next week to find out what you're going to do with those potential 2 transfers, and we'll see if I've still got my 2 as well. But no, but as always, thank you for joining, and thanks for your guidance.
No worries, mate. My pleasure.
And to you, the listener, whether you're watching us on YouTube, listening on Spotify, or listening on Castbox, although I think I'm the only one that's listening on Castbox, thank you for joining us as well. Hopefully it's been useful to you. Hopefully you had a better game week than me and Matt in Game Week 5. I'm sure you did. But all the best for building your team in Game Week 6. If you did find this useful, please do, as always, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter, all the good stuff, just so other people can find us as well. But as I say, thank you more importantly for your time, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.